expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello there, and welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm CJ, and Chip is currently on another line, and I'm waiting for him to finish his other phone call, which is obviously taking a little bit of time. So I can't put him on the air yet until he's done. But I'll start off real quick. Right now, how many people knew that Boston snow plowing was handled yesterday by, well, some of it anyhow, by a porn site? Reported in BostonMagazine.com, Pornhub says it will plow the snow in Boston for free. Hey, Mr. Mayor, maybe you should reach out. I guess Pornhub classifies Boston as one of their biggest purveyors of porn from their website. So it's very interesting to see the outcome of this. And, you know, I'm looking at the trucks and the pictures that are on their website, and I would highly suggest you go take a peek at that at Boston Magazine. And some of the sites are very interesting. They have all the plows out there and the trucks, and they have Pornhub right across the plow area, for those of you who'd like to see it real quick. It's rather an interesting scenario when you look at it. And this is how Boston gets a little bit of extra service and saves some money. Local businesses doing what they need to do. So you have to admit it's always lots of fun. A lot of people are upset about this alleged snowstorm. I don't want to say it was a snowstorm. It's an alleged snowstorm. And the reason it's an alleged snowstorm is because while they definitely knew that it was coming, our weathermen don't know how to do their job. We would have got a better forecast using a couple of tarot cards. So I have to laugh at that altogether, because it's definitely very interesting to see how it worked out. I guess the Boston Globe has decided that they're going to vacate their printing facilities in Dorchester. Reported in the Boston Business Journal, Boston Globe has decided that they're leaving Dorchester. And guess where they're going? No, not Fall River. They're going to, drum roll please, bang, the Taunton. They're going to Taunton. And they're guaranteeing Taunton 250 jobs. Hey, Ken Fiola, hello. I think you need to meet with Taunton and ask them how they can get businesses to vacate Fall River and go to Taunton for TIFs and giving them jobs, and the Boston Globe vacating Dorchester and giving them jobs. You always say it's illegal to give a requirement in the TIFs to create jobs for Fall River residents. Boston did that for the longest time. Worcester does that, but Fall River can't. I don't think it's that Fall River can't. I think it's that Fall River won't. I think it's because Ken Fiola knows that if he requires a business that gets a TIF to hire 100 Fall River residents, the business is never going to meet the requirement. Because the people in Fall River don't seem to want to work anymore. Let's not talk about work ethic, because guess what? Work ethics do not exist in Fall River any further. And that's the problem. But according to the Boston Business Journal, the parent company of the Boston Globe applied for and received a $1.3 million tax break over 10 years from the city of Taunton, and plans to ramp up employment there to more than 600 people in the coming months. Not years, months. Kevin Shea, Executive Director of Taunton Economic and Community Development, told the Business Journal that Algonquin Management Holdings, a Boca Raton, Florida-based parent company of the Boston Globe Media Partners, was granted a tax incentive in exchange for the promise to create jobs in the area. Algonquin is headed by the Red Sox owner John Henry, owner of Boston Globe Media. So again, create jobs in Taunton for Tauntonians, and you get money. Create jobs in Fall River for everybody else, and we get no money. Where does it happen? Where is this going to change? When is the Fall River Office of Economic Destruction going to realize that until we start to put Fall River first, Fall River will never be first? I find it amazing that your wife, Ken, knows to put Fall River first. And I'm not on board with Carol's politics in a lot of ways, but there are certain things that she does that you have to give her credit for. You got to put Fall River first, but you don't put Fall River first. And that's the problem. And that's why the office you run is known as the Fall River Office of Economic Destruction and not the Fall River Office of Economic Development. Go out to Taunton and take a lesson, because I'll tell you now, I think you need it. You know, I'm going to move forward to a little bit. Mayoral candidate Richard Cabaceres, current city councilor, spoke very eloquently on his mortgage crisis or his mortgage foreclosure, and he said that it's behind him. Reported by the Herald News, he says there's no excuses, who sat down with the Herald to clarify information that his property was foreclosed on, and that has circulated publicly in a letter to the editor and on social media. The bigger problem we have is that there are no excuses. Okay? A lot of people in Fall River, a lot of people throughout southeastern Massachusetts have had financial issues and mortgage issues. The problem is that those financial issues either get rectified or we suck it up. Now, Cabaceres did provide to the Herald documents proving that when the notice of foreclosure was printed in the Herald News, he had brought his payments up to date. He said he tried to deal with the mortgage holder, but they wanted it all or nothing. And I believe that, because a lot of them do. They don't want to deal at all. Bank of America, oh, they'll give you a deal, but they'll give you a deal so that you get blasted at the end, where basically the principal of your loan is due because all you're doing is paying interest for umpteen number of years. He said he was seeking the money, a way to pay the whole balance. When the notice appeared in the paper, a friend helped him out with a small loan. You know, Mr. Cabaceres, a little bit of advice from a political advisor to numerous people. The issue had almost died, except for a letter to the editor by Noah Vinciletti. And some of his points in his letter to the editor were very much on point. But just if you had dropped it and let it be dropped. The Herald published one article. A small fraction of people on social media beat the crap out of it. It was when you started posting the signs illegally before the date. You're a city councilor, you know the law. That's when this all started to come back again. And you know, you have to really wonder. Now, I would suggest very clearly that you should have let it die. But of course, Mr. Vinciletti's letter said our representatives should pay their mortgages, taxes, and bills, and have some form of full-time employment. Maybe the collective local media could agree to cover candidates equally and fairly instead of ignoring stories that pertain to their personal favorite candidates. I agree that does seem to happen a lot in local media. And more so, it seems, with the Herald News, or as I like to refer to them as, Pravda. But the problem is that if you feed into some of the megalomaniac attitude of some of the people on social media and some of the people in the public, you tend to lose sight of what your goals are. And I think that's one of the things that happens quite often with the current administration, because then the threats come out and the attacks, and it really demeans the office you hold or the office you intend to attain. So my suggestion would be to Deal with it factually as you did in your article or your interview with the Herald News, and then let it die from there. If people want to keep bringing it up, that's fine. Address it rapidly and move on from that point. But do not get into a pissing match over it. You know, we're looking at right now from the Herald News that we have, and not only from the Herald News, but from the Fall River Housing Authority, we have a member of the Housing Authority, Mr. Charette, Scott Charette, who does not have a union card, hasn't presented one, hasn't presented anything to prove that he's a member of the union. And his appointment to the Fall River Housing Authority has been based on, he's a mayoral appointment with the Housing Authority, and as such, should reflect the mayor's appointment as a member of the union and a city resident. Now, I say this very lightly, but I say it because it's my impression. Okay? And my impression is very clearly that there is nothing that this mayor will not do that does not, in one way or another, appear to violate a law. And that's a difficult situation, because this appointee to this housing authority is supposed to be a union member and a city resident. Now, Attorney Joe Macy, the city corporate counsel, said, and I'm going to quote him, here we are. Corporate counsel Joe Macy on Monday and asked for a factual basis for the allegations. She said she prepared to get the services of labor law attorney to pursue it. You want the factual basis of it? Number one, Attorney Macy, the law is clear. He must be a union member. Very easy to provide the facts. Here's my union membership card. Must be a resident of the city of Fall River. Very easy for you to verify, Attorney Macy. Walk over to Elections and Census and find out if he's listed there. Find out if he's listed anywhere else. We have numerous city employees that say, I'm a resident of Fall River, but they have a home in Somerset or Swansea. And they're spending 90% of their time there. And let's get right down to it. The city's special assistant to the mayor, Faust Fiore, is an elected official in another community. And on June 3rd, his residency requirement is going to be required to maintain that job. So I'm assuming that either Faust Fiore will resign because he's not going to maintain a city residency because he's an elected official in another community, or he's going to be terminated. Both of which should occur prior to that date. But again, we're going to violate a city ordinance, right, to keep him on? This is the problem we have. And Attorney Macy, you are contributing to it. You do nothing to represent the law factually. You twist it, as every attorney is supposed to do. But when the city council cannot trust in your opinions, when the people cannot trust in your opinions, when a request is made and you do everything possible to drag it out like you're hiding something, maybe you're not hiding anything, but it appears that you are. And in Fall River, the appearances or the perceptions become the reality of the people. And until you allow that to be heard, until you allow that to be known, it creates a problem. And Charette's saying he's staying on the Fall River Housing Authority. He won't prove that he's a member of a union, and he won't prove that he is a city resident. But this mayor's going to keep him on. Why? Because the mayor wants to have Dave Sullivan terminated. I have the audio of him saying that at a neighborhood meeting. He's going to get rid of him because of the quote-unquote allegations of improper handling of issues there. But he needs the vote on the board. And if Mr. Charette's not there, he may not get the vote. And all we have to do is look at the IAC. All we have to do is look at other boards. Because I'm telling you now, it gets to be a little ridiculous. And, you know, truly what has to happen is that we have to have some action from the mayor. We have to have some action from the mayor where we know that the people are being represented appropriately. And if they're not, we have a problem. So, tell me, Attorney Macy, why has everything got to be so delayed? Why has everything got to be so delayed? And why can't we just get the information we request? Now, I made a request of the fire department for the training records for the information contained in the first section of the contract. Chief Shea says it's going to take 8 hours and $162 or $165 to get that information. Why? The state even recommends that cities and towns not charge. But he needs 8 hours to put the information together and, segregate it and make it available. I have a problem with that. I have a severe problem with that. And maybe the people need to understand that we have this severe problem. And honestly, I don't think there's a way to handle it. I don't think there's going to be a way to handle it. And until there is, it's just not going to work out. Now, I know that City Council Linda Pereira requested the same records that I did. And Chief Shea hasn't answered her request yet either. Well, guess what? Now, Chief Shea. Oh, God, why do I keep saying that? The fire chief still has not provided them to me, hasn't provided them to Linda. Okay? Once Linda requested them and they have to get made, guess what? They're now public record. There is no charge. So, fire chief, hello, I'm going to expect them for me. Okay? And I don't have to pay for them. But I will guarantee you they delay the provision of these documents so that the city council does not have them for the fire department contract. So they can see what's there. Because that extension has built into it a provision for training on narcotics and Narcan a year before the city even talked about doing it. And if those documents are provided, I will guarantee you that they were made up since the request went in. I can almost guarantee it. Because I innocently asked a few who have no idea what training that is. They just know that it was written into the contract and they're supposed to take it. So guess what? Why are we going to pay in the next budget year for something that hasn't happened yet? Why? Because if you didn't do that, then that's a 4-year contract, which is illegal. I firmly believe the fire department should get everything due them. I firmly believe they should have it all. Everything they can get, the union president should make sure he gets everything he can. But it appears that this mayor does not want to act within the confines of the law. Again, it's an appearance. So I'm going to be contacting the fire chief again today, and I'm going to say, I know that Councilor Pereira has asked for these documents. Therefore, your fee is no longer applicable. I want the documents. I want the documents. And that's where the issue comes in. It looks like Chip might be available. Let me see if I can get him on the line. And we're going to find out. Are you available, Chip?
Huh?
Are you available?
Yes.
Okay, let's see if we can get you on the screen here. All right. Chip, you need to move your head because you're not going to show up on the camera. But there he is.
Yes. I listened to you for a few minutes, and you're right. And they're doing the same. They're doing the same thing with the Insurance Advisory Committee. They want a political appointee to vote on how to spend money for the welfare, wellness center, and for renovations of such. And
Chip, can you turn that camera down a little so we can get beside your eyes and the top of your head? There you go. Now we can see you, Chip.
All right. Well.
Yeah, and I just going off on the documents that we requested from the fire department because they haven't provided them to me unless they get $162, and now a city councilor has asked for them, so they have them before the city council meeting next week to address, because they were hoping that the meeting was going to happen yesterday, and then I found in the agenda that wasn't going to be there, and the chief is dragging his feet because he wants these contracts approved, or he's being instructed to have these contracts approved, and nobody can verify that the training was done on this one-year extension. And of course, without that proof being in the one-year extension, it creates a 4-year contract. You know labor relations more than I do, so.
Yeah, but I mean, now I was just, I apologize to everybody. I was on the line with Brad to get on the show, but I wrote a very lengthy letter to the city about what's going on with the insurance advisory and the public employee committee and about health insurance, and they did return my call, and now I guess their position is they have no position. They don't care. This is a fight between the IAC and the BEC, which to me is rather ludicrous because, I mean, statutorily they're advisory, and they're saying that we gave them the right, even though there's a clause that says we can't supersede statute. So the bottom line is it's another power play by the mayor, just like he's doing in the housing authority, to control every board and get every vote to go in his favor, which is the reason maybe we should elect people to boards and not have mayoral appointees, because this is going back to Tammany Hall in New York and Chicago under Mayor Daley, where the mayors have strangleholds on the city. It's just not right.
No, it's not. And this is the problem that we have. And, there are people lining up right now saying, what is this mayor doing? Why is he doing it? And it really upsets me because he has department heads doing his bidding because they're afraid they won't keep their job. Okay, and I'm not saying that the fire chief didn't do that. Believe me, I don't think John Lynch did that. But to ask for $165 or $162.50 or whatever it was to get records which should have been at his fingertips. Chip, you were in the fire department for a number of years. Does it take 8 hours to gather up training records for a specific training?
I would guess that if you wanted it to document every single individual in the department who did the training, it would take a little time because some people don't get the training on the day it's designated. They may be on a day off, they may be on vacation, and there are makeup days. But I mean, just to document the fact that training was given is fairly simple. I mean, it's in the, every time they have a drill, they log in what the drill is, and those records are fairly. At least they were when I was around. They were fairly accessible, and you could give someone basically a ballpark which would cover the majority of the people, and when they got the training and the parameters. 8 hours seems a little excessive, but hey, then again, maybe they're trying to make a few dollars, and I can't fault them for that,
No, you can't fault them for trying to make money, and I said this very early. I think that the fire personnel should get every single dime that they're entitled to, everything they can bargain. My question is not on whether or not they deserve it. It is not on whether or not they're entitled to it. My question is that of law. Is the one-year extension that they created acceptable under the law, or is that just a way to do an end run around the 4-year contract so that they can have a 1 year and a 3 year? That's my big question. And I know that contracts are extended for a year, but usually it's the same contract, you extend it for the year, that's it, and then you make all the changes, or you make a change and then you move forward. It's just a lot of question that's going on here. And based on the previous actions of this administration, with including settlements and contracts, which I still believe is illegal. I believe it's an act of accretion. When you have stated publicly that you plan on getting rid of the Housing Authority director, but the only way you're going to do that is to make sure that your Housing Authority board is your appointees who are going to do everything, and then you have one who we can't prove a residency on. He will not provide any proof of union membership, and the unions are saying he's not a member. Isn't that a very questionable to you? And then you're taking 20-year, 30-year people off of boards unceremoniously and putting in your political hack.
Yeah, well, it's pretty obvious that this is the new modus operandi. He wants to control every board. The issues like collective bargaining and stuff, those things are easily remedied. They go in front of the labor relations, and they'll make a ruling whether that in fact was within the parameters of having an extension or because we all know. I mean, one thing that we all know is that contracts have the longest contract that can be negotiated under 150 is 3 years. So there have been numerous times when we signed 1-year contracts and then a 3-year contract and subsequent. We don't know if this, but I mean that's for labor. There is a mechanism to determine whether that is right or not, and obviously. The union's got a labor attorney, and that labor attorney should have, they're responsible for doing things that are, within the parameters of making this thing a viable agreement for them. So if it is, it is, and if it isn't, well, they got a bone to pick with their attorney.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree. That's what they got. That's what they pay, their legal counsel to do, to ensure that, the collective bargaining agreements that they sign in good faith are legal, and so and that is not. See, that's an area where I don't have a lot of issue. It's when we get things like the housing authority where the boards are stacked by politicians, and now we have the mayor exercising his right to put his chief of staff on the healthcare advisory board. When one of the most critical votes in the history of the healthcare, now we're going to do something that's unprecedented in the state of Massachusetts. They want to use mitigation money. And mitigation money was supposed to be, under normal circumstances, used to help people in the health care plan who suffer catastrophic billing because of all the new co-pays that were attached so the city could make money by shifting the cost over to the employees. There are some people who could suffer extremely catastrophic and massive bills, and normally mitigation funds used to lessen that burden. You could give them some money toward the bill. You can reduce, the pharmaceutical drug premiums for people, and it's used basically to mitigate the impact on the employees, not to subsidize rent and to renovate buildings. So this is something that I checked with Boston and the state, the retired state, county, municipal employees organization, who represents the retirees throughout the state of Massachusetts, right, in every city and town. They said that they have never, ever heard of mitigation funds being used in this manner. They do not feel that it's within the letter or the spirit of the law. So we're looking at doing something in this city that's never been done before, using health care money basically for real estate and renovations of real estate, not to help the employees that the mitigation fund was created for. And they're going to say there's an indirect benefit. If you get this wellness center, it's going to reduce the premium. But, that's a matter of opinion. The fact is that if I got a private company coming in here that's going to make money, why can't they pay for their own building? Why can't they pay for the renovations to make the building right for them? And if the city wants to do it, let the city pick up the whole tab. I'm not really sure that's an appropriate use of mitigation funds, and I'm working with Boston right now. So.
I hear you there, and this is for I still can't get to this letter from Mr. Dubois in regards to Hillbilly Elgley, but I guarantee you at the next show we're going to get into that. Chip, thanks for joining us via Skype and telephone, and we will see you on Friday, and hopefully Chip will be in studio. Have a great week, and don't slip on any ice, please. Stay angry.
That's right, really angry.